Hello there everyone and welcome to John Drinks, the channel where I, John, have a drink. And today you might be forgiven for thinking that I'm going to be drinking a lot. In actual fact, no. But we're going to be doing a lot of talking. This is most likely going to be quite a long video, so I'd cancel any plans that you might have today. This is going out on New Year's Eve, or Hogmanay, as they call it locally. So, you know, I'd imagine you don't really have much penciled in. In other years, that joke goes down better. This year, it's kind of going down like a cup of sick, isn't it? Because it's probably actually accurate, unfortunately. And if you are in that situation where you've had to cancel plans, my condolences to you. So my plans right now are to talk about some booze. Quite a bit of whiskey. This table contains not all, but a fair representation of some of the more interesting whiskey that I've had this year. Not everything that's been amazing, not everything that's kind of disappointed me. I've tried to have a bit of a selection here. I'm going to talk about each of them, possibly briefly, knowing me, probably not. And at the end of the video, we're going to whittle this down to a few bottles, which have kind of stood out to me this year. And I'm going to let you know what my pick of 2021 was. These videos are a little bit unusual in that most people nominate a whiskey to go forward into the new year as their sort of cross-bearer, scepter holder, torch-bearer. That's the one. That's the phrase I'm looking for. And I prefer to kind of look back, reflect, as it were, on sort of what has been. It's my second year doing this. Last year, I didn't nominate a whiskey of the year because I had one that just stood head and shoulders above the rest, even. And it was Bladnoch 10. And indeed, you might see we have a Bladnoch here. It is not the 10-year-old, but we'll get to that shortly. So at the end of the video, I'll kind of let you know what was sort of my star pick, as it were, for the year. And we'll also be going through some of your suggestions as well. A few days ago, I put a poll up on the community tab, and I asked some of you guys, well, in fact, I asked all of you guys, if you're subscribed to the channel, you'll have seen it, to nominate one out of a list of candidates, all of which, apart from one, are represented here. The choices were Glencadam 10, Glenallachie, the 15-year-old, Ledaig 10, the Arran 10, and the Laphroaig Sherry Oak. You'll notice the Arran is not represented here. I basically threw that one in because it is the universe's best whiskey, according to all of WhiskeyTube. I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm not saying it's a bad whiskey, by any stretch of the imagination. But, you know, we'll get into that conversation as and when. There should also be chapter points down below, so you can kind of scroll around the place and, well, dip in and out, basically. Because, like I said, this probably isn't going to be a short one. Certainly not from the amount that I'm rambling right now. I have a whiskey here, and I'm going to dip into it. I'm going to play a little game, actually. I'm going to give a periodic tasting note. Periodic tasting note? I'm going to give occasional tasting notes and see if you can guess which one it is. Oh, it's quite fusile to kick off on the nose. And it's a little, almost a little acidic. That's interesting. We'll come back to that later. So to kick off, let's talk about a Ben 10, but it's not a Ben Romac, it's not a Ben Rennes, it's Ben Nevis. This is the old bottling. This year, I've had some interesting connections with this distillery. I have never been to it. I got sent this bottle from the distillery. I'm part of a group on Facebook, which is the Ben Nevis Appreciation Society, or I'm not sure that that's the exact name, it might be. It's along those lines. And it's for Ben Nevis fans, duh. And I put up my review of the independent bottling, because I couldn't get my hands on this. And someone from the distillery got in touch and said, hey, do you want a bottle? We've got some lying around. So it was a bit of PayPal shenanigans, which, looking back on it, could have been really frickin' shifty, but it wasn't in the end. The bottle showed up, I have it, and I've been enjoying it. I have. And I'm hoping to share the wealth with others fairly soon. I did a review on it. I love the stuff. I think it's very characterful. It is absolutely not for everybody. It's really not for everybody, this whiskey. It's a very rattly table. We're going to hear clinking. I can't avoid that. I'll tell you what, let's get more ASMR. There we go. That's good, isn't it? Do a bit of corkage. There we are. I love the retro label. I'm not so keen on what they've done to it now. I get why they've done it. I kind of feel like if they'd stuck with their guns just a little while longer, there's a real, like, 70s kitsch revival going on at the minute, with, like, groovy fonts and stuff like that. That's kind of, like, more sort of, minimalism's kind of on its way out a little bit, and this kind of busy aesthetic is coming back in. So I can't help but feel like they timed their redesign very poorly in that respect. I mean, like, how many other whiskey labels have a hand holding a crucifix? That's not a thing. I love how decorative it is. Also, you know, there's a lot of foil detail. I'm a big fan of the whiskey. There we go. I don't know why I stalled there for a minute. I had to kind of restart myself. Further on in the year, went back to work, ended up working in a whiskey bar, needed people that knew some stuff about whiskey or had some exposure with whiskey. And through that process, ended up hiring someone who had worked at Ben Nevis. And the first day they were in, they were understandably very nervous, and they were talking to me a little bit, and they were like, oh yeah, I texted my old boss and was like, you'll never guess who my new boss is, and they sent the video of me reviewing this. Yeah, apparently that video circulated a little bit at the distillery. So if anyone at the distillery is watching this, A, thank you for releasing Alice so that she could come and smash some of my glasses for 2 months. She's been an absolute fucking star. And B, you guys are doing bang up work. Keep it up. Loving what you're releasing. And then lastly, I got a lovely shout out from Phil over at Whisky Wednesday, which has been very good for me. It helped me break or get to the 2,000 mark, 2,000 subscribers, a lot sooner than would have otherwise been the case. And he sent me over a little sample, amongst many others, of the new release of Ben Nevis 10. And in the new year, I will be doing a review of that, or a side-by-side tasting. And I'm going to be sending some of this over to Manchester as well. And hopefully, we might, if we can time things right, be able to do something together on that. Although I haven't actually discussed that with him yet, so, you know, no promises. But it'd be a bit of fun, wouldn't it? Because I've not done that many collabs. But one collab I have done this year. I'm a fan of Bladnoch. I'm not sure if I mentioned that enough. Bladnoch's great. They produce some great whiskey. It's not the cheapest whiskey on the planet, but they produce some great whiskey. I love the square dumpy bottle. I'm a fan. And their social media team are so on it. They really are. As an example of how on it they are, I was having, or I knew I was going to be having, a very bad weekend about 5 months or so ago. It was one of those weekends where I knew it was going to be bad because I knew we did not have the resources to cope with what was about to get thrown at us. And I knew that we were going to be going into it not completely prepared, and it was going to be a shit show. And lo and behold, it was a shit show. And the rest of the week was a bit of a shit show. It was just not a very pleasant week at all. And once I got away for the day, I decided to go to the Bow Bar in Edinburgh, because that's where I live. And they had some Bladnochs, and I was like, fuck it, I've had a bad week. and I bought a dram of the Bladnoch 14, the Adela Oloroso finish, if memory serves. And I took a picture of the dram with the bottle, and the caption read something along the lines of, "Fuck it, I've had a bad week. For anyone who wants to know how bad my week is, look up the Star Trek Voyager episode Course Oblivion. It's been a lot like that." And within, I kid you not, about 20 minutes, Bladnoch messaged back, being like, so long as it's the so long as it's the biomimetic John having the bad day and not you, you should be fine, or something along those lines. I was like, that's fast. Like, even if you've had to, like, go into Memory Alpha to look that one up, I don't care, because that was snappy. For those of you who don't know, the episode I was referencing, basically the crew discovered their copies of the original crew, and they invent a form of transport which ends up slowly killing them. Basically, they start melting. We were in the grasp of a COVID outbreak at the time, and the staff were dropping like flies. And it just reminded me a lot of that. It was like every passing day, the situation just gets worse and worse and worse. And it looks like there's going to be no good ending to this. Ultimately, my story had a slightly better ending than Course Oblivion, because, spoilers, they all die. Really fucking grim episode. But yeah, that was just something that struck out to me. But back to the whiskey, because that was maybe a bit of a tangent story. Fuck it. This is the Vinaya. Bladnoch approached me. Will Pitchford approached me and said, "Hey, we'd like to do something with you to launch our new product." So I was like, "Yeah, okay, let's do that." So we're like, right, what do you want to do, like a collab video? And I was like, how about a live stream? Don't do enough live streaming, how about we do a live stream? So we agreed to it, and I was like, I'll tell you what, why don't I reach out and see if I can bring somebody else on board? Because I thought, well, why not? So I got in touch with Moa over at Swedish Whiskey Girl, and I was like, hey, would you like to be a part of this? And she agreed, because she has her shit together, and whenever an opportunity comes up like this, it's unusual for her to say no. She lives and breathes whiskey, she loves it, and she is more than happy to work with just about any brand going. So she jumped on board with this, and we did a little live stream talking about the Vinaya. And it turned into a bit of a sales pitch, if I'm completely honest, but we ended up having a bit of a discount code. I think I called it something to do with the cat. I don't quite remember. I think the code was like Momo 2020 or something like that. And loads of people bought a lot of the new make, because we ended up chatting about new make for a while. I don't think we intended on talking about the new make. We kind of went on a tangent. I think I brought up something about the new make from, I think it was Lindores Abbey. And then he started chatting about, like, actually there'd been a lot of interest in the new make, and it was something that they never really thought about bottling, and then they made it available on tours, and then people just really vibed it. I haven't actually tried any Bladnoch new make. I've been meaning to get around to that at some point. Should maybe look into that at some point. But yeah, so the Vinaya was a launch. This has been a communal bottle, for want of a better way of putting it. Periodically, I've taken this to work, and at the end of sometimes you go into a shift knowing it's going to be a fucking hell shift. You know it's going to be a bad shift. So I've taken this along, and at the end of the shift, I've been like, right, cool. If anyone wants a whiskey, I brought some whiskey along. And people have been really enjoying this. A colleague of mine was like, what was that? Oh, really nice. And we ended up getting a Bladnoch in because a fair few people were quite a fan of it. We didn't end up getting the Vinaya in because we weren't able to get our hands on it for some reason. Our distributor's a bit weird. But we could get in the 11, so that's what we've got on the shelves instead. Fruity, vanilla-y, it's beautiful. It's a really good introduction. Well, it's not the best introduction whiskey because the price isn't quite... It's quite high as an introduction whiskey. And that's kind of a problem with a lot of Bladnoch in that it's pretty steep. For what you get, but it is good stuff. That's the problem. I say the problem. Once you get hooked on Bladnoch, it becomes difficult to get unhooked. I'm a big fan of Bladnoch. I've got my eye on. It's nearly £200 a bottle, but I've got my eye on one of their single cask releases at the minute, and I'm kind of hoping it sells out, so that kind of, you know, it takes the decision making out of it, because I'm tempted to pull the trigger. I do have some Patreon money. No, that's irresponsible, don't do that. But yeah, that was the Vinaya, which was something that I was introduced to this year. I really enjoyed it. I would not say it's a replacement for the 10-year-old, which was a supremo dynamite whiskey in my view, and in a lot of people's as well. It's not meant to be. But I was keen to get my hands on it to try what Bladnoch and sherry are like with each other. And it's a lovely malt. It's a great way of getting into a lowland style and seeing what Bladnoch can do if you're curious. But for me, having tried like the 14-year-old and the 17-year-old now as well, not bragging, I've just, you know, had a lot of bad days this year, Bladnoch works better with a bit of age behind it. It's once it starts getting 10, 11, 14 years old, you start getting a lot more out of it. And that sounds like it's logical for all distilleries. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Take a break, check this is still recording. I'm back after a little break because I talk too much. I've also opened the aperture a little bit more to let in a bit more light, because I realised that the opening 20 minutes of this was a bit dark. So that's why this maybe looks a tiny bit different. Anyway, moving on, we should go to another lowland, I suppose. This is Lindores Abbey. Words cannot express how much I was looking forward to the release of Lindores. I've been aware of them since the Aquavitae. I was like, okay, that's a bit weird. And then I tried the new make and I was like, ooh, that's really nice. And then over lockdown, first lockdown, we've had a few now, I got to try some of their maturing spirit. And that was good. That was good stuff. In hindsight, they've probably picked out some of the more active stuff so they can get people like me on board with it and be like, hey, this is the kind of stuff that we are capable of. So when it came time to get this stuff, I was giddy AF. And I'm a little disappointed to see how little people have been engaging with it. However, I also understand why that's been the case. This is perfectly fine, but there's nothing particularly exciting about it. I will confess, having gotten about 3/4 of the way through a bottle, this was actually another bottle I got, because I got impatient and bought a second one. And I haven't actually finished off the first one yet. I'm about 2/3 of the way through it. And I find myself going towards it with a memory of some of the maturing spirit I've had, and then coming to this and just finding it's a little bit flat by comparison. It almost feels like it's a bit too generic. It needs a bit more time. It's the case with a lot of these younger distilleries in that they obviously need to start making some of their money back. And I am reassured in that I've had a chance to try some of the very early Arons back when they were just getting started, and they weren't up to much either, you know? They have some very passionate people at the distillery. They have some very good casks that they're slowly starting to talk a bit more about, and they're putting out a few more releases. As an entry level to get you on board with the distillery, this does fantastic work. In fact, I think that's the job that it's designed to do, which is get people trying it and going, yeah, that's all right, I could drink that. As a casual malt, it's great. The MCDXCIV, which is Roman numerals for 1495, I think. What year were they established again? That's most likely what that stands for. Wherever. Lots of good things about this. 46% natural colour, non-chill filtered, all the good stuff from that. Lovely bottle design, quite simple. It is a lovely whiskey. But there's nothing standout about it. And I think that's what kind of disappointed me a little bit. It's a little sharp. It feels like it was rushed out a little bit, you know? It's maybe one of those kind of bottlings where under normal circumstances you would have been like, it's not quite there yet. But they're maybe not in a position to keep it, or like not be releasing some stuff. And it's certainly not going to damage them. And I'm still looking forward to trying some of their other stuff. And they have released a bourbon release. There's going to be another one coming out imminently, which I think is a peated cask finish from Islay, possibly Laphroaig cask, don't hold me to that. And there is a distillery exclusive as well, which is all sherry, which looks stunning, but looks can be deceiving. But that's Lindores. A little bit of a misfire for me, that one. Will not be getting the Whisky of the Year, just to let you know about that. Let's check in with our Scotch here. Oh, it's getting a bit brighter, a bit more lemony. Something of back bacon about it as well. Spicy, peppery, very nice. This is the whiskey tube of a miniature whiskey tube. I just got it. Glencadam 10. I passed this over quite a bit. And there's no good reason why I've been passing it over, I just have been. Glencadam, it never really got my attention. But I, like a fair many other people, watch other YouTubers talking about whiskies, gins, what have you. And Glencadam has always been very well received. Now, there is something of a well-made, well-presented whiskey that is affordable and accessible in terms of flavour and presentation, that just gets people excited. I think that's what a lot of the magic of Arran 10 is, that it's readily available, it's beautifully made, it has a fantastic flavour, it's very unique to itself, and it's just one of those whiskies that people love to talk about. Glencadam doesn't quite have the same sex appeal, but it's reliable, it's an old faithful, it's one that people keep going back to. Now then, I was a little bit nervous about this one because it's not what I would typically consider to be my kind of box ticker whiskey, but I thought, do you know what, I'll go in with an open mind, and I was very pleasantly surprised. Very pleasantly surprised. I very much enjoyed this stuff. I found myself requesting it when I'm out. If I see it on a shelf, I'll be like, oh yeah, no, I'll have a Glencadam 10. I've gotten a few other people onto it. They've been really enjoying it. It's fantastic value for money. It's fantastic whiskey. It's light, but also has bags of flavour. And it's got a wonderful fruitiness to it, which I don't normally gel with too much with a whiskey. It's like you know, kind of like a apples, pears and peaches kind of a thing. I'll be like, yeah, I'm all right with it, but it's not necessarily my go-to. But with this, it works. Maybe it's just that I'm coming round to it a little bit more. But with this, certainly, it works. And they're just doing a lot of things right. Again, 40%, natural colour, non-chill filtered. Doesn't mean it's going to be an amazing whiskey, but it doesn't hurt. It really doesn't hurt. Next, oh, there's so much to go with. Let's talk about this. Oh, should we go peat? Do you know what? I'm going to leave the peat for a second. I'm going to go over here next. This is Glenturret. This is the Glenturret 12 2020 maiden release. This is not a contender for Whisky of the Year. For one very simple reason, you can't get this specific bottling. And its replacement, which I've also tried, I rate equally as highly as this, but for a plethora of different reasons. I'm very happy to say that the Glenturret 12, 2020 and 2021, to my palate, is very different from each other. Now then, I know Roy over at Aquavitae did a side-by-side. This is his fault. But I mean, you can tell that I enjoyed it. It's empty. We managed to get the 2021 release of the Glenturret in at work. And I bought myself a dram because I was like, I'm curious. And I was expecting it to be mostly along the same lines as this. And what I found instead was it's not. If this was a Christmas cake covered in milk chocolate, then the new edition is one of those sort of artisanal ginger snap biscuits coated in dark chocolate. It's still got a sweetness to it, it's still quite fiery, but it's a very different way that it delivers its flavour. And I'm into it. I'm big into it. The new releases of Glenturret are quite pricey. Part of that, I would be surprised if it weren't the case that it is the bottle that's contributing to that. But it does stand out, and that's the job of the new bottle. It's meant to say, hey, I'm totally different from what you've had from me before. Give me a go. And I'm really happy with the new outrun of the Glenturret. I haven't tried their new release of the peated. I've tried their old peated stuff, and you know what? Quite enjoying that. But I haven't tried their later releases. I haven't tried any of their older stuff yet. So I'm still quite new to this distillery, but what I've had of it, I've been really enjoying. I'm a big fan of a sherry bomb. It's kind of my my cross to bear, for want of a better way of putting it. I do love heavily sherried whiskey, and this was fantastic. Normally, when I have a whiskey like this, I will try and leave some of it alone for like a dark day, you know, so I've got something to come back to. But with this one, I was just like, no, I want to finish this because it is a limited release and I don't want it hanging around, and I don't want to come back to it in like 5 years and it has been oxidized to hell and be completely different. I don't want to ruin that memory that I have of it as a fantastic whiskey. I want it to be something that I drank, I had very fond memories of, and then moved on, which is a little unusual for me. But I did. I've kept the bottle because I feel like it's a crime to throw this away, because it's beautiful. And if Glenturret want to do a refilling service, I'd be okay with that. But if nothing else, I think a good infinity bottle this would make. Roy was right to sing the praises of this stuff. I don't know how he feels about the new edition. Like I said, I've not watched that very deliberately because I knew I would be talking about it. I got this for a bargain. You'll have to watch the video that I did on this to kind of find out how that went, but I was very lucky to get this at the price that I got it for. I would be happy to pay the RRP for it. because it is worth it. It's steep for a 12-year-old, and that's a conversation we're having with the Bladnoch as well. You know, it's that thing of the expense for what you get. But do you measure it in the value of it's expensive for the age statement, or it's expensive for what you received? They can be different things. That's Glenturret. Oh no, my glasses, no. Oh well. Let's go American for a second. Let's change things up a little bit. Ooh. This is Mellow Corn. This is cheap, shitty liquor from America, and I fucking love it. America, you are getting your cheap and nasty liquor so right. This stuff's like, I think, $12 in the US. We pay about $25 for Glenlivet Founders Reserve, and that stuff is gasoline. This stuff, it's beautiful. It's sweet. It is mellow, quite high strength, and I just love the garish label. And again, we were talking about this with the Ben Nevis. Probably going to be coming back in vogue because it's so fucking kitschy. They never changed it. I think Old Grandad is another example of that, where they just kept the old label, and it's got a cult following as a consequence of that. But also, I think it should have a cult following just because it's bloody good liquor. This you do pay a pretty penny for in the UK. It's not massively expensive, but it's a little steep considering it is dirt cheap stuff back in the US. But you know what? I kind of don't mind. I mean, if I could pick this up for 12 quid in the UK, yes, I would. Because it's brilliant stuff. And it's a conversation starter as well. I'm really, really happy that I've got a bottle of this. I mean, I'm going to crack open the lid and just have a little... Also, yellow screw cap. What's not to love? Oh, it's wonderfully sweet and creamy and inviting. Again, I've reviewed this on the channel. Really just enjoyed it. And it was really nice actually to see how many viewers enjoyed it as well. How many people had this or tried it at some point or had a bottle themselves and were like, yeah, do you know what? It is a bit pricey to get in the UK, but you know what? Would do again. And I have since found a couple of places where I can pick up a bottle without having to resort to Amazon, which is where I did have to get this from, ultimately. I did hesitate for a good long while before pulling the trigger on this one. I'm glad I did. But I'm going to take my time with this. Which, it's probably Americans watching this being like, why are you revering this bottle? This is the cheap and nasty crap. What are you doing? I mean, we worship Jack Daniels over here, for God's sakes. I mean, by comparison, I think this stuff should get a bit more of the limelight, because if it did, then maybe the fucking price would go down, because we'd actually start importing it. But that's Mellow Corn. I'm going to see if this is still recording. We should talk about another new release this year. Isle of Raasay. A lot of people have talked about this, and with very good reason. This really took me by surprise. This is their R01. Should I have opened the bottle? Maybe not. Again, what I talked about when I did a review video of this was the love of the label. Labels aren't something that we normally talk too much about in the Whiskey Tube world. As I don't know, maybe we just hate graphic design. I don't know, but well, actually, I don't. I love graphic design, but this is a beautiful label. I was a little bit nervous when I came across their While We Wait stuff because the design was pretty ugly, and not in an endearing way like the Mellow Corn is an endearing kind of ugly. It was just kind of ugly, you know, like 90s PowerPoint, that kind of ugly. If you know, you know. So I was really happy to see that they ditched that completely and got their shit together. But also, the amount of information on this label is wonderful. You've got cast types, you've got Stuff about like geology, you've got the island population, you've got a little bit of, tasting notes on there, you've got a barcode, which we don't care too much about. Tons of information about how the whiskey is made and what goes into it when it comes to the cask, the terroir, and it's all on one little bit of paper just wrapped round the side, and the rest of the bottle is left to do its thing. It is a heavily designed bottle, but you know what? It's evocative of the contents. Something like, say, the Lindores. You can't help but feel like that is riding off of the... There's a thing with ridged bottles in gin at the minute. Linden Lime, doing great stuff with that. Before that, it was... Oh, what's the one made with sea kelp? Oh, that's really annoying. It's got little specks of gold on the label. There's people screaming this in the comments right now, or possibly at their monitors. Oh, it's maybe Samphire and Sea Kelp. What is the bloody name of it? It's gone. It's gone. But long story short, there's a lot of gins doing like, ornate bottlings with like ridge designs or like, other kind of relief stuff. You can't help but feel like that's just kind of like, oh, well, that's working in gin, let's see if it makes us stand out. And you know what? It's a nice bottle. But it doesn't have anything to do with the whiskey. And a lot of bottles tend not to. They're pretty bottles, but they don't have much to do with... They don't say anything about the whiskey itself. It's a slab of earth with an ammonite in it. So there's a surprising amount when you're talking about geology, when you're talking about the fact that there's a bit of peat in here, the fact that it is essentially a big old slab of earth says a lot about it. It says that there's been a bit of thought into it, that's not just let's make it pretty. It is pretty, but there's more to it than that. It's got this wonderful, like fried chicken and barbecue kind of a smell to it. Maybe I'm just hungry, I don't know. It's packed with flavour. You can tell that they chose their cask very carefully, not just because they've taken the time to tell you what's in it, basically. But you can tell from the finished product, and you can tell from the fact that a lot of people are really connecting with this at a young age. And it was worth waiting for it. And it's now here, and we're enjoying it. And it's actually kind of hard to get your hands on, because people are enjoying it. And we love to see it. It's nice to see. The Raasay wasn't a contender. It's not that good, but it did surprise me. I was curious more than anything else about this. I wanted to give it a go. And I'd heard a few people talking about it, and there were some bottles going at the Royal Mile Whiskies, and I was like, well, do you know what? I'll take a punt, see what it's about. 40 odd quid, why not? Very happy with it. I found myself going back to this quite a bit. I've shared a couple of drams with people, and they've been pleasantly surprised. They've had a go at guessing it. They've not gotten it right, because, I mean, you wouldn't, let's face it. But people have been really enjoying it, and people have been surprised that it's new. Quite young whiskey in there. It is going to be very exciting to see what these guys do in the coming years. They're definitely one to keep an eye on. We should start talking about some contenders. We're getting into peated whiskey now. Speaking of which... Something of smoked sardines about it, and there's a brininess to it, a little smoky, hints of caramel. I wonder what that could be. One that it's not, because the colour's wrong. Oh! Laphroaig Sherry Oak finish. This stuff's wonderful. Really is. I got put onto this stuff by Whisky Wednesday. I've been eyeing it up for a while. And the last couple of Laphroaigs that I tried, I'd enjoyed them. I'd certainly enjoyed them, but I wasn't sure if I'd pull the trigger on a bottle or get something else. So when this came to market, I was like, I don't know. It's ticking a fair few boxes. It's peated, it's sherry finished. You'd like Laphroaig. It's a higher strength. And in the end, I waited for somebody else. I waited for somebody else to tell me if it was any good. And they didn't mince their words. They said it was good stuff, and then some. So I bought some, and as you can tell, I agree. This stuff's lovely. This stuff's enveloping. It's velvety, fruity. It's still got that wonderful briny TCP punch, which if you love it, you love it. If you hate it, you hate it. And there's no getting around it. There's very few people that sit on the fence with Laphroaig, and for a very good reason. It's full of character. And you either vibe with it, or you steer clear. I vibe with it. I've been a big fan of Laphroaig whiskies for a good long while. Yeah, they're not the best presented, blah, 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 blah. I don't care, alright? I still love the stuff. It is going to be fascinating to see what is coming in new hands. But as a goodbye, or as a final expression, I suppose, before moving on to Lochlear, I think he ended up at. I've described this as Laphroaig getting back on the horse, because there's a couple of expressions before this where I've tried them and I'm like, I don't know. Whereas this, I was like, oh yeah, no, they're back. They're back, and they're here to show us what they can do. And I love to see it. And to my knowledge, this is a core release. 48%. There's no word on colour, filtration. I almost don't care. That's how much I'm loving this. I'm really, really engaging with it. And I think I am going to have to replace this when I get through it. I've got a couple more peated whiskies now in my arsenal, so I can ration myself. But the problem now is when I'm in the mood for a peated whiskey, which is often, I find myself turning to this more often than other stuff. Because it's that perfect Venn diagram of I love a sherried whiskey and I love a peated whiskey. So of course this is always going to be up my street. I was going to say up my canal then. That's not... I mean, no, let's not go there. Let's not go there. Resolution for 2022, a bit of self-censorship? Nah. I just got to 2,000, I don't want to see that number plummet anytime soon. Queef, there we go. Extra 20 subscribers right there. Hey, if it works for Memory Heart, why can't it work for me? Ooh, beautiful coastal smoke aroma. Aroma? Flavour. It's late. I've been working today, okay? Where are we next? I couldn't not have this as part of my review of the year. This is all Ballantruan. This is Peter Tomental. Got that right this time, didn't I? I think somewhere along... I think so. I think it was on Instagram. I said this was Peter Tomatin. And it's not. It's Tomental. I, again, tried this at the Bow Bar. I'm trying to move this along a little bit because I'm consciously aware that this is a Whiskey of the Year video and we're about 8 years in and we've not even gotten started yet. So if you think the other guys waffle on when it comes to their reveal, where's my prize? This... more people should be trying. I'm just going to put it out there. More people should be drinking this. More people should be giving this a go. It is not... I wouldn't say it's difficult to find. That's the thing. It's one of those... It's like it's got a perception filter on it, any Doctor Who fans in the audience. It's there. And it's always been there. But it's almost like you don't want to know. It's like you cast your gaze away from it. to things that you want to look at. Tomatel should do a bit more marketing, maybe? Maybe that's not quite what I mean. They should do a bit more of a push on this stuff. Because people that are fans of peated whiskey would adore this. And I think the people that have discovered it have really been vibing with it. I was very pleasantly surprised when I tried this, because I was like, oh, I've seen that about, I've heard about it, it's been mentioned once or twice, but no one's ever really kind of like, no one's ever really had its corner, I feel like. Maybe it's just that I like an underdog, I don't know. But I do genuinely really like this stuff. This is a no age statement. Yeah, bring the hate, whatever. There's a 10-year-old, there's a 15-year-old. If you want an age on it, there's an age statement out there for you. This is really affordable stuff, and boy, does it scratch an itch. If you want some smoky whiskey, you can do a lot worse than this stuff. This was nearly my whiskey of the year. So spoilers, it didn't quite make it, but it was fucking close. If it hadn't been for what did get it, rocking up at the last second, hint, 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 this would probably have taken it. I've been very impressed with it. I'm firing through it at a healthy rate. I love the old school label. It was a whiskey that I tried it at a bar and I couldn't stop thinking about it. You know you've got something, or you've connected with something, when you keep thinking about it. It's like how you fall in love with people or animals. It is possible to fall in love with liquor as well. Or a food. Or a toy that you see in a shop. You know, if you can't get it out of your head, there's something about it that your brain is trying to tell you, you connected with this, and you should try and seek it out if you can. So I did. When I went to roll my whiskies, they were actually surprised I asked for it. Because they had, and I quote, not touched it in a while. They almost sounded like they were happy to offload a bottle on me, and I felt sad. Because again, it feels like people are missing this one, or overlooking it. Is it just that it's got quite plain packaging? Maybe. Does it blend into the background too much? Maybe. Is it a hidden gem? Yes. Should you seek it out? I would, if you're a fan of any of the things that I just talked about. Oh, it's that wonderful smell. Ardbeg fans would adore this. People that liked the Laphroaig Sherry would love this. People that want a peated experience that's a little bit different would love this. It's luscious and luxurious, and it has a very comforting peatiness about it, which I adore. More people should try this. And it very nearly took it. We've got a Ledaig here. If anyone guessed that this is what I have in my glass, you are correct. I got to know this one a few years ago. I am not the only fan of this stuff. I know a fair few of you guys, because analytics tell me, also watch other whiskey YouTubers. Certain ones that do live streams in Glasgow, or work in whiskey shops in Manchester, or a fella that sits in a bothy somewhere in the middle of the Irish Sea. There's that last one that, if you weren't aware of Ledaig before recently, if you watch him, you certainly were now, because this got named his Whisky of the Year, and it's part of the reason why I have a bottle. I love this stuff. I was tempted to name it my Whisky of the Year as well. A couple of reasons why I didn't. One, I'm not nominating a whiskey to carry me forward. I'm doing a reflective thing. And I discovered this many years ago. And I continue to back it as an excellent whiskey. I love how simple the design on the label is. It's not necessarily relevant, but I do. I adore the flavour profile of it. It's got a wonderful caramel, sea salt, licorice note to it. It's different, yet also similar to the kind of experience that you get from something more conventional, like a Kalila or a Lagavulin. Lagavulin, increasingly difficult to get your hands on. Prices are going to be going up from, if the hearsay is to be believed. I spent less than £40 on this. If the prices went up to about 45, I'd still say it's worth it. I won't be happy about it, because right now we're sitting on a bargain with this stuff. And I really do mean that. This stuff is a fucking bargain. 46% natural colour, non-chill filtered, and it tastes bloody incredible. Beautiful bottle, fantastic gift, brilliantly made. There's nothing not to love here, unless you hate peated whiskey, in which case, try the Tobermory 12 instead. Same craftsmanship, same attention to detail, beautifully colourful labels in a lot of cases, just without the smoke. If you don't vibe with this, chances are you'll vibe with its brother. If you don't vibe with that, I don't know, there's plenty of other whiskey out there. But I'm sorry that I wasted your time. But if anyone is a fan of smoke, seek it out. Most bars that have a decent whiskey selection, or even a crap whiskey selection in some cases, will have this. More and more people are asking for it, more and more people are connecting with it, more and more people are realising how good this stuff is. Demand can sometimes set a price point, particularly if enough people start asking for this that there begins to be demand outweighs supply. Then you start getting issues of people holding onto bottles to sell secondarily in between availability. That's a situation we don't want. That's part of the reason why I got a bottle, because I'm a little bit nervous that this might suddenly get a lot more difficult to get your hands on. If it does, I've got alternatives. Ballantruan's not going anywhere anytime soon, I don't think. I hope. But I thought, do you know what? Now's the time to pull a trigger on getting a bottle, because this is normally what I get when I'm out. This is the whiskey that I go towards if I'm after something peated and it's available. And I'm glad that I have a bottle sitting on my shelf now so I can come home to it. And I'm very much enjoying drinking this as I talk at you. I'd say talk with you, but let's face it, this is a very one-sided conversation. How's the recording doing? Right. I think I've talked at you about most of these. I think we're on to our last bottle now, aren't we? Bloody well chosen. Bloody well chosen, Ralphie. Because, you know, you need my validation. Right. Oh, I've got the box here as well, actually. Oh, oof. Oof. I can't tell, and I kind of hope it is the case, that this whole thing is them trolling Bruichladdich a little bit. You know how they're, whilst they do make good whiskey, and I'm not saying they don't, you know how they're kind of hipster wankers and they make a load of black and white films about their whiskey and how, like, rugged and tough it all is? Maybe a little bit, maybe not. I don't know, maybe I just like a bit of wanky monochrome. You know, we should quickly say as well, Ledaig back in the day, I've not tried any old Ledaig. I'm keen to give it a go at some point, because I've heard that it used to be the crap stuff, like the really bad stuff. Given how much I like the new stuff, I'd be keen to see where it came from. Because I like a redemption arc. That's why I'm enjoying Star Trek Discovery at the minute. If anyone, by the way, watched that in the first series and went, what the fuck is this? It's done the standard Star Trek thing of taking a few series to get to where it needed to be, and now it's quite good. I don't know where that came from, but hey-ho, bit of sci-fi chat. Last but not least, we've got Billy Walker's current concern. This, oh no, still got a thing around it. Here's the Glenallachie 15. Hello, Mohammed. What is it? Do you want to come talk whiskey with me? You going to join me? What do you want? What? Do you not like Ledaig, man? Well, that was fucking weird. Glenallachie 15. We discussed the 12 in the past, and I really like the 12. I've tried a few more Glenallachies. I've tried some single cask editions whilst I've been out in bars and stuff like that, and they've had it on the shelves and been like, yes, I shall have one whiskey, please. And I've really vibed with those as well. And whenever I've been out and I've tried other editions of anything, I have tried to update my whiskey score sheet, because that's my version of a pen and paper diary. And it works quite well for this kind of electronic side of things. And I'm hoping in the new year to start seeing other people's contributions as well to that. But we'll get into that a little bit more towards the end of the video, because let's face it, if you've made it this far and I can advertise to you, then, well, you're pretty freaking committed. Hello, Mo! What? Are you going to give me a... No, you... Okay, alright, sorry. You do your thing. There is a cat in the room, just in case you thought I was talking to myself and making meowing noises. Because, I mean, I do that sometimes, to be fair. I tried this fairly recently, and I wasn't ready for what it was about to do to me. This blew my wig off. Really enjoyed it. I can't quite put into words what it was about. Mo, you're ruining the video. I can't quite put into words what it was about this, other than it was an all-encompassing experience. It was fruity, sweet, luscious, had a wonderful woody component to it. It was fantastic. It really was. And I was not expecting, having tried the 12, I knew it was probably going to be good. I was not expecting that big of a leap up. I seem to resonate with 15-year-old whiskies. I don't know if it's a personal thing, or I don't know if it is an across-the-board thing of everyone... I mean, it would be surprising if everyone found that 15-year-old was the best whiskey, because then surely you just stop. No, I'm talking nonsense, aren't I? I'm definitely talking rubbish with that. But for me, certainly, the 15-year-olds tend to be the ones that I vibe with, tend to be the ones where I go, oh, that's good. Glenallachie, Glendronach, Johnny Walker. You know, how often do you hear me praising Johnny Walker? Not very often, but you know what? The Green Label, good stuff. I've bought a lot of Johnny Walker Green Label in my time. It's probably my most purchased whiskey. You might be surprised to hear me say that, but genuinely, I gift it a lot because I know it's good quality stuff. I know it's tasty, and I know it's very accessible stuff. And it looks great. Like, as a gift, it looks great. People recognise the name of it. Why are we talking about Johnny Walker? We're supposed to be talking about Glenallachie. I'm sure no one needs me to say that Billy Walker knows what he's doing. Yeah? That's like Donald Trump telling an astronaut how to go into space. You know? Not useful information. I'm going to go let the cat out now. Excuse me. Because otherwise he's going to keep disrupting this video. The Momo has been released. This is magnificent whiskey. It is absolutely worth your time. It is absolutely worth your money. It is a bit more expensive than a lot of what I've talked about here. It's about £65 to £70, depending on the retailer. But it's an orgasm in a bottle. And I don't know how else to describe it. And none of my YouTube contemporaries, I think, would ever describe a whiskey like that. And if you're new here and you've made it this far, welcome to the channel. Consider subscribing. This is how bad I am at advertising myself. It's a miracle we've gotten as far as we have in this time. And I say we because, I mean, without the people that are watching this and contribute to the videos, this is nothing. This is a guy talking in a room at, what time is it now? 3 in the morning? Good God, John. And occasionally having to stop videos because his cat is interrupting him because he wants to go outside for a shit. That's my life, guys. What a life. Hey. If you want a bit more information, do you know what? The best way that I can describe this is the reaction I had to it when I first tried it. Sometimes I go into whiskies having tried it already, and other times I go into it blind, first go. And straight out of the gates, this one just kind of threw me over a washing line and started fiddling with my nipples. It just got in there. And if you think of this as sounding a bit raunchy, it was a bit steamy, not gonna lie. But I'd watched the video of me reviewing this, not just, you know, scrolling through Pornhub. Although, you know, whatever mood you're in, fair enough. Have me on one tab and have hardcore porn on the other. See what happens. Nothing good, I would have imagined. But anyway, but my reaction to this was, I wasn't expecting it. And it was a very honest reaction of just, oh wow. So we should get to the whiskey of the year. Some of you might already suspect which one it is. But you're going to have to hang around a little while longer, because before that, we have the viewers' poll. The results of the viewers' watchamajig. Yes. I asked on YouTube for all my subscribers if they would be so kind as to lend me a cup of their opinion and tell me which whiskey they would like to see as the whiskey of the year from their point of view. I wanted an audience perspective. And the results, I hate to say were surprising because I sound like clickbait, but they were surprising in some respects. So the results, just to remind you of the candidates actually, we had the Glencadam 10, we had the Glenallachie 15, which we just talked about, we had the Ledaig 10, which we had before that, and I've got in the glass, we had the R01 10, which is nowhere to be seen here, and we had the Laphroaig Sherry Oak. So the results of the poll are as follows. In last place, I can't read this fucking thing with no specs, hang on. What's that say? In last place, with 13%, I'm turning to Ralphie here, with 13% of the vote, is the Ledaig. Which was surprising to me, especially given that it has so recently had some very good publicity. And also, that I know it to be a fantastic whiskey. It's one of my personal favourites. I was surprised to see how few people engaged with it. Although it was last. It's not like nobody voted for it. You know, it's like each one of these had somebody who thought it was the best. You know? But it didn't get as much as everyone else, basically. In close second, with 15%, was the R01 10. Which, now don't get me wrong here, I was glad to see it finish as late in at like 4th place as far back as it did, because, and this is not slagging R01 by any stretch of the imagination. I've drank R01. I think R01 is a fantastic product. It's great, accessible, beautifully made, blah blah blah. It's not that good. Is it me? Is it me? People are raving about R01. And yeah, it's a good whiskey. It's great, it's well made, it does all the good stuff. It's 46% natural colour, non-chill filtered, beautiful bottle, readily accessible, good price point. But it is not heads and shoulders above its contemporaries at the same price, or in some cases even a little bit lower. I don't get the Church of Arran, because there is almost an obsession with Arran. And again, I get it, in that it is a beautifully made whiskey to latch onto. But given how many other beautifully made whiskies there are to fly the flag of, it seems very odd to me that there is such a wide consensus that that is the best. And I don't say that lightly, because it almost does feel like if you wrote on a whiskey menu, R01 voted the best whiskey in the known universe by the internet, where's the lie? Am I being cynical? Am I being bitter? Am I just wrong? It's a take. It certainly is a take. There's probably a fair few people watching this been like, you haven't got a fucking clue what you're on about. Fair enough. Personal opinion, it's a fantastic whiskey. I don't think it's so much head and shoulders above the rest that it deserves the godlike status it has, at the detriment of other comparatively excellent whiskies. I don't get why there's so much of a, these are great, but this one's up here. That's my issue with R01. It's the perception of it. It's not the whiskey at all. I'm just a little bit lost on that one. Personal thing, let me know down below, am I a fucking heathen? I mean, the answer is yes, but particularly on this subject. Bring your vitriol. Somebody slagged me off on Christmas Eve. I had a nasty comment come through on Christmas Eve, and I was like, okay. I haven't answered it, because the timing of that, I can only assume somebody's having a very bad day and they just need somebody to take it out on. I was like, do you know what? Most of us are having a bad year. I'll be a punching bag. Fair enough. I've had worse. In 3rd place, with 20%, is, what's that fucking say? Is the Glenallachie 15. Clearly I've had more of a reaction to the Glenallachie 15 than you folks. Now then, the Allachie 15 is a little pricier. It is very possible that less people have tried it. Understandable. But then, given that the Arran and the Ledaig ended 5th and 4th, I would argue they're more accessible. So maybe the argument's a little bit moot. Regardless, 20% of the vote. It's a decent slice of the pie. I think I was just expecting it to do a little bit better. But hey ho. 3rd place. It gets a place on the podium. It's not my 3rd place. In 2nd place, and by default also the 1st place is going to be announced in this one, is the Glencadam 10, with 23% of the vote. I nearly forgot my joke there. I can see fine, I don't need these. Really happy with this one, really pleased to see a lot of people have had an opportunity to try Glencadam and are appreciating it. I think Glencadam deserves a lot of the praise that is heaped at Arran, for example. I think the two are level pegging. In terms of quality, in terms of taste, in terms of experience, I think the two are level pegging. I think the Glencadam, for me, even takes it a little bit over the Arran, which is, again, why I struggle with why, don't get me wrong, people like Glencadam, you know, a lot of people talk about Glencadam and they think very highly of it, but it's nothing compared to the Church of Arran, for want of a better way of putting it. This was me trying the Glencadam this year because of what I'd heard from other people. Great whiskey, affordable, does all the things that we like to see. It was a dream, that whiskey, for me. Really enjoyed it. And it's wonderful to see that a lot of you guys have had an opportunity to try it, and you've also engaged with it, and it was, for a lot of you, your best pick of the year. Which means our winner, which I was not expecting. I was expecting this one to be floundering towards the bottom. Because I wouldn't have said it's, the problem with Laphroaig is it is polarising, as I've said, so I wasn't expecting it to be the runaway winner with 30% of the vote. But it was. And we even had some people commenting, bring it home Laphroaig. So the viewer's choice for Whisky of the Year is the Laphroaig Sherry Oak. So that, is the people's winner. Can you even see it? I think my arm's in the way. I'm not doing this very well at all, am I? There we go. That is the John Drink subscribers pick for 2021. But mine's the Glenallachie. I think I've dragged this on for long enough, haven't I? I don't think there's a need for a drum roll when the video's as long as the fucking Titanic film. Yeah, this one just made me cream my pants, didn't it? I mean, anyone that's watched the video, like, I mean, that's a little death right there. I was not prepared for how transportative this was going to be. And since I've had it, at my work, when people have been asking for something that is something different, something that might, you know, shake them up a little bit, I've offered the Glenallachie 15 to universal praise. I had an American couple in, and they were loaded. How do I know they were loaded? They came in the previous day, and they bought about £500 worth of whiskey in about an hour. One of the whiskies that they bought was a Kalila 37 that we've got on for 200 quid. A nip, not a bottle. Didn't even bat an eyelid. They followed that up with a Mortlach 1936 for £210. Didn't bat an eyelid. Really liked it. They really liked the Lagavulin. So much so, they came back the following day and got 5 50ml bottles of it and put £1,400 in the till through those 5 bottles. They then stayed and had 5 more whiskies at about £150 to £200 a piece. One of the whiskies that I gave them was this, and it was their runner-up. You want to bear in mind how big a deal that is. This was going up against the oldest whiskey that Diageo has ever released. This was going up against a Mortlach that was first distilled in 1936. This was going up against Supremo Dynamite heavyweights, and it nearly beat them all out. So it's not just me. And I've had a fair few other people as well, you know, that haven't been putting down serious money, that have said they really enjoyed this. And I don't mean that in terms of like, oh yeah, they really enjoyed this. There's something genuinely quite magical about this stuff. We're in a very special time at the minute to have access to this. I think, period. And if you do have 60 odd quid burning a hole in your pocket, or even if you can scrounge it together, and you like your whiskies, I'd get a bottle of this. And I wouldn't put too much thought into it either. I'd just get one. Because you know what? There might be a rainy day one day. And if it turns out that, you know, you need to pay the bills or you're going to be made homeless or something, you can always sell it on. Chances are, in a few years, Billy Walker's going to sell Glenallachie on to somebody else. And slowly but surely they're going to fuck it up. Anyone been keeping an eye on what Glendronach have been up to recently? They're slowly but surely letting go of the reins on that one, aren't they? Sadly, it will probably be the same thing with Glenallachie in a few years' time. But for right now, we live in the golden era, and this stuff is incredible. Do you disagree with my pick? Probably. By the looks of the polls, probably. Did you contribute to the poll? Are you happy with my choice? Have you bought any of these, or been bought any of these whiskies, or any of the other stuff that I reviewed this year? Because some of you have already reached out and said that you have either mentioned to folk, oh, there's this whiskey that I've been told about, and it's been bought for you by a loved one, or somebody that just wanted you to shut up for 5 minutes. I know the Ballantruan, for example, was on somebody's wish list, and they ended up getting bought it, and so far, they're loving it. So, you're welcome, Tom and Tal. Let me know down below what your picks for the year were. What are you looking forward to in the new year? I'd take a quiet day, to be honest, at this stage. But hey-ho, we'll see how it goes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody that has contributed to this channel over the last year, and indeed the last few years. Thank you, everyone, both present and past, patrons and contributors that have helped financially support the channel in this time. And thank you to everyone that has contributed a comment, watched a video, told me I'm a cunt, done whatever. Thank you all. I hope that your last day of 2021 treats you well, and I hope the shitstorm that is 2022 is mercifully brief. That sounded dark. You get what I mean. For now, though, and for the last time this year, thank you very much for watching, and do join me next year, where I'll be drinking something else.